everyone, welcome to Bri-Bri's Thoughts. Today I would just like to ask if anyone has read a book, a good book, about healing and closure. I would like to know in the comments what is the title and what is the author's name. Just some, like, if you've actually read the book though. I don't want like, oh, I have a so-and-so friend that wrote a book that I've never read that I don't even know if it's helpful. I just want like honest opinions. What is your guys' favorite book that has helped you, find that peace, find healing and closure? Because that's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a book that maybe a psychologist wrote, or a counselor, or someone, maybe a survivor that, really knows like what did they do to get closure. The hardest part is everyone is so different and every story is different, and therefore we can't all have like the same recipe to healing. So I just want any suggestions that you guys have. If you could comment on the videos or comment on the Facebook post that we made on Blind Eye Movement page. Let us know, like what have you read that felt like it actually kind of, bridged the gap between being a victim or a survivor and then healing and feeling peace and kind of feeling like, okay, I feel better. Is there such a book even? I have no idea. It could just take so many different things in your life to be able to get to that point that maybe a book wouldn't do it. And books aren't for everybody. Not everybody are, not everyone is a big reader like me. I would rather write than read, which is probably terrible. So yeah, I would just like everyone's suggestions, please and thank you. What else I wanted to say is, so justice may not happen for everyone, and you might not be believed about your abuse. You may not get what your heart desires as a reaction from people. You may not get a big support team around you after something bad happens, and that's just kind of life, and it's really unfair and it stinks, and not everyone has like a great support system. Or maybe you had one but you didn't realize like you could reach out to them. So like me, there were several people in my life that I didn't know I could use to be a support team, and they were there probably all along. I just didn't realize, like, I just had to make that step of reaching out and telling them what was going on. So just don't forget that there may be people in your life that do care, that, they won't always know what's going on in your life until you tell them, until you reach out and ask for help. So just remember that. Okay, so let's say you don't quite get the closure you want from justice. Like, let's say your perp gets away with the crime, and it's pretty miserable and it's really hard to take, and you're just thinking every day like, okay, this is so unfair, and I already had to go through the abuse, and now that person's like off, just still happily married, or still has his money, has a great job, and then I'm over here miserable. I can barely hold a job down because I've been abused, and I'm just really struggling every day, because that happens a lot. And it's really sad. Like, the victim ends up, their life could be in shambles because they've never figured out how to cope, heal, and survive their abuse. So that's where I think really the important thing is to be able to learn how to take what happened to you and grieve that thing, like grieve that abuse, grieve that like as if someone died, because maybe that little girl in you died, maybe that little boy in you died after the abuse, and you feel like you'll never be the same, because that could be true. You may never be the same. And everyone's abuse story is different. Every level of abuse is different, and it can affect people so differently, and we get that, and not everyone can handle it the same way. So it can be really just life-changing, and it can be so hard to know, like, where do you go from there? How do you get past that? So it's important to grieve the abuse and then figure out ways to heal. And you may have to try like 10 different things before you finally feel like, okay, I think I'm healing through this, and I think I'm actually feeling better about it, because it's never going to go away. You can't erase it, but you can feel better. It can get past, the depths of despair, because I've been there where it just felt like life can't be good, and you're just at the bottom for so long, but you can get better and you can heal. And then you got to find peace, which I just feel like I bring that up a lot because it's just a good way to describe the state of mind where, yes, you're an abuse victim. Yes, you're a survivor. Yes, this happened to you, but you're not necessarily in the mindset of the trauma, like isn't it in the forefront of your mind. You're sort of in this like peaceful state where it happened and it was there, and it still is there in the background. It's not so much in the forefront of your brain every day, all day long, where it's hard to go to work and it's hard to, go to family functions. It's hard to get out of bed in the morning. instead of being in that state, you're more of like in a state of peace, and you're calmer, you're less anxious, you're less jumpy, you're less scared, and you're less like having nightmares, that kind of thing, or having nightmares less often. Excuse my grammar, doesn't always come out the way I want it to. And then having closure is just basically like sort of like having peace, but I think it's a step further. Like, you got to close the scariest chapter of your life, and you still can think about that chapter. And let's say your life is a book, and you can think about that chapter. You could reread that chapter and think about it, dwell on it, but you feel like that chapter's over. Like, you know, like, okay, that chapter is done, and now I can keep writing the rest of my story. And you can write really good chapters, because you've had a lot of bad chapters, and maybe there was some good ones in between the bad, or maybe they were just all bad. Your beginning of your book of life could have been super bad, and maybe there aren't a lot of happy chapters to look back on. But after you have like closure from the abuse, and you may have many chapters of abuse that you have to get that closure on, and then you can start writing happy stories, and you can start writing, you know, new memories and things that can kind of help you distance yourself from that abuse. And that's where I just feel like I'm finally being in those states of mind. But yet there's still parts of my life where the chapter is still being opened up, and I have to add more to that bad chapter, because like, oh, somebody's still in my life that's creating bad memories, creating trauma, creating bad sleepless nights, you know. So you may have to go back and like add to that chapter, but then close that one back up. Keep writing good ones, keep writing in good happy memories and good productive things you've done in your life, so that you can feel good at the end of the day of what you've done with your life. Like, how can you have a healthy, productive life? How can you live in a state where you have the least amount of regrets as possible? Because that's, you know, really the best goal is in life, try to create the least amount of regrets as possible, meaning you try to make the best choices you can every day, and you try to find like, what is your purpose, you know, and you try to find like, what good thing can I do today to try to write a better story for myself and a better ending for yourself, and no longer let that person or those people or those groups to cause you pain every day, and don't let them have the control over the rest of your story, if that makes sense. So just a quick video to remind all of us and myself, because half the time my videos are like for me too, because like that's what I'm experiencing in the moment, or maybe I just thought of something. So I'm, you know, preaching to the choir. Not to give you a Baptist phrase. Sorry if that's triggering. So yeah, so I take notes sometimes so I don't forget to tell you something. But yeah, so I think I already just said my last point, which is find peace, find closure, and sometimes that is just through, you know, rewriting something, or just writing something good and then closing that bad chapter, if that makes sense. I don't want to repeat myself because I just said it all. But yeah, so that's basically it. But if you do have a book that really got to you and really like hit home for you, and as a survivor you just really related, please put it in the comments. I can't promise I'm going to read every book suggestion, so like don't have that expectation. I just want to see like what people's favorite books are, and then kind of go from there. And I have a couple ideas of what I would like to do next. So yes, please, just your honest opinion of a book that you fully read and you fully trust that it's not like leading people down a weird road, or like that's super triggering. But I mean, obviously everyone heals differently. Everyone responds to different things differently. So it is not a one size fits all with healing. Like, it's just not. There's so many different ways that people feel healed. Some people got to do something really aggressive, you know, somebody's got to have a bonfire and burn a bunch of stuff, or some people like to go to a break room and break a bunch of stuff, you know, because like that's the feeling of anger is just a real emotion that we all experience, but we just have to figure out a way to do it safely without abusing someone else in the process or hurting other people in the process with our anger. So there's got to be like healthy ways to heal, but allow ourselves to like be angry, be sad, be mad about it, and then heal from it. So that's it for today, guys.